Peace. Shalom. Hotep. Welcome back for Chapter 9, or Baseball Diamond 9 in this instance, of Balls of Fire by Judy K. King. This chapter is titled Frank's Time Crystal. Really good information. Stay focused. Don't forget the screenshot so you can read along with me. Let me know if you don't see something clear or something's not clear to you, and reach out to me and I'll do my best to rectify the situation. Also, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Frank's Time Crystal. Frank found subtle exceptions that link motion and the state of being at minimum energy. Malik Parikh, theoretical physicist. Welcome to the Baseball Diamonds. This section features a significant player from each fantasy draft team and reviews the conceptual basis for the game of centuries. Where necessary, spring training information is briefly summarized to reinforce understanding. Frank Wilczek is the designated hitter for the Diamond Hearts, a team that generally favors the primacy of mind. Frank is a theoretical physicist and mathematician who won the Physics Nobel in 2004 for his work on the strong interaction, along with David Gross and H.D. Politzer. Recently, Frank has provided the world with a mathematical solution for a time crystal, an actual state of being that functions something like a perpetual moving machine. What exactly does this mean? Ordered states can result from the breaking nature's regular laws of symmetry. Break a spatial translation symmetry and a crystal results. Break a phase rotation symmetry in a superconductor and a supercurrent results. Yet many scientists believe that a time translation symmetry cannot be spontaneously broken in the quantum domain because microscopic objects such as particles are too small to break the symmetry of time evolution. However, mathematical proof supports that a time translation symmetry can be spontaneously broken to enable an ordered state. Recall that Van Wetzel stresses the importance of the unexplored experimental gap of mesoscopic states, virtually viruses and bacteria, is in between the microcosm, which is the particle, and the macrocosm, which is us. Using mathematics, Van Wessel explains that it is reasonable that an energy or mass scale exists in the mesocosm where dynamics occur at the human time scale. In this, then, mesoscopic spectrum, states become equal in energy as the system grows to infinity. When this happens, it is possible to reduce the system's quantum ground state, lowest energy state, while violating the system's governing physical laws related to time symmetry. Although scientists accept time reversal T violation, which is essentially time moving backwards, they are skeptical about the breaking of time translation symmetry. In support of Van Wetzel's claim, Physics Nobel laureate Frank Witzek supports that it may be possible for a microscopic model to break time translation symmetry. Put simply, in Frank's time crystal, time-dependent phenomenon can be exhibited in a time-independent system. Also, this crystal would be free of dissipation, so the system would not dissipate or lose energy through a conversion into heat. Frank's mathematical solution supports cold states of matter that could form a tiny time crystal with a tiny ring of particles whose lowest energy states are periodic in time. The state of matter would return cyclically to the same initial state. Once in motion, a time crystal would not need an outside force or energy to keep it moving. In his recent articles in 2012 and 2013, Frank explains that his idea comes close to a perpetual motion machine, or a superconductor might do the job in the right circumstances. Superconductivity is the flow of electric current without resistance in certain metals and alloys at temperatures near absolute zero. So, put simply, Frank's mathematical solution for a time crystal describes a state of being that is very similar to the ancient Egyptian quasi-hybrid being. Surprisingly, eternal return of cultural knowledge. Surprisingly, 5,000 years before Frank Wilczek's time crystal, the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and their hieratic priesthood concealed a remarkable similar idea inside their pyramids and tombs. They explained how the elite with knowledge could merge with the sun's magnetic field, the necessary hydrogen energy boost, and prepared spin state, and transform into a cold light star or crystallized quasi-hybrid beam, very similar to Frank's time crystal, that does not dissipate by a heat reaction and lives for a long, long time. According to the ancient Egyptian texts, the transformation allowed the elite to escape their second death, what their texts describe as a hellfire heat dissipation of dismemberment by knives, slaughter, torture, decapitation, and burning in fiery pits. Related research also shows that the early Chinese emperors and their sages, as well as the 16th century Navajo shamans, were cognizant of this cold light crystal transformation. They too advise an initial high temperature boost from the hydrogen sun to jumpstart the self-assembly process, followed by a cold light transformation to avoid annihilation. Granted, this merger may not have been an actual collision with the sun, but might be better understood as chemical bonding of a human DNA fragment to the sun's hydrogen protons and magnetic field spin state. The Egyptian input of hydrogen energy, a lightning strike from the sun, was necessary to jolt or activate self-assembly and transformation to something very similar to Frank's time crystal. Now, an ordered state can result from breaking nature's symmetries, as Van Wetzel explained in 2010. Put simply, if decoherence, and we're going to stop for a second, decoherence is, in physics, the process in which a system's behavior changes from which can be explained by quantum mechanics to that which can be explained by classical mechanics. Okay, so decoherence is just a switch in your viewpoint or in the way that you're measuring things. So an example would be the difference between measuring in centimeters and then measuring on another scale, which is inches. If decoherence can be avoided by cooling, the time evolution can be distinguished. Van Wessel cites experiments that are currently being conducted to create a mesoscopic order parameter field that is coupled to light or magnetic field that is suitable. This is exactly what happens in the ancient Egyptian texts that emphasize the value of the sun, its magnetic field, and the cold cosmic sky. In the cold temperature of space close to absolute zero, the electron in some metals will suddenly shift into ordered states to travel collectively without the deviation from their path like superconductors. This fluidity is due to the mutual action of molecules that swerve or deflect from their path. Since biologists consider both DNA and viruses as crystals or ordered states formed by a three-dimensional pattern of atoms, ions, or molecules with fixed distances between parts. Let's consider Egyptian science in light of Frank's mathematical solution for a time crystal. Two thought experiments. It is possible for the metal binding protein in phage lambda to attract organic DNA molecules and then transform and multiply into hybrid viral crystals via the ancient glycolysis fermentation pathway. Could this result in a broken time translation symmetry comparable to Frank's time crystal? After all, with the loss of oxygen and glucose into our cells at a human death, the ancient glycolysis fermentation pathway should still function with lactose for adaptive survival, just as the pharaonic priesthoods predicts. Speaking of fermentation, after soaking an iron-based compound in alcoholic drinks such as beer, red wine, and sake, researchers at Japan's National Institute for Material Science discovered that the metal compound became superconductive. Yoshihiko Takano, professor at Japan's National Institute for Material Science, and researcher Katia Deguchi, now have a wine-soaked metal compound that is 7 more times superconductive when dipped in red wine. This suggests that there is a link between fermented products and superconductivity. Aha! Now, Frank's thought experiment, backed up by mathematical solution, involves the creation of a time crystal that is similar to a supercurrent spontaneously induced in a superconducting ring threaded by a tiny magnetic field. Ancient Egyptian texts explicitly describe a similar thought experiment where light or UV irradiation activates the lytic cycle of phage lambda along the ancient glycolysis fermentation pathway for rolling circle replication, resulting in what might be called a superconducting ring of replicating viral DNA threaded by its tiny magnetic field. With great simplification, the relational difference between the two thought experiments is that Frank has done the math for the time crystal, showing this state of being can exist, while ancient Egypt has described the state of being and the creator of Frank's time crystal, phage lambda, a viral ferry boat for human DNA using lytic replication for crystallization to the native state. This may seem like a foul ball way out of the ballpark, but who would have suspected the connection between fermented wine and a superconductive metal compound? Let's clarify these thought experiments with an understanding of superconductivity and a look at lambda's metal binding proteins.